and welcome to Utilities PvE Holy Paladin Guide. In this guide, I will be going over talents, glyph, spell and stat priorities, cooldowns, healing add-ons, keybinds, and races for both Horde and Alliance. So let's get right into it. First up is talents. For the level 15 tree, I went with Speed of Light because as a healer, you really shouldn't be moving quite often on a regular basis. So I'd rather go for the quick movement speed so I can get out of whatever I need to get out of as quick as possible and stop moving as quick as possible to resume healing. Although on some fights I did go with Pursuit of Justice just because there was quite a bit of constant moving, stacking, and spreading out with the group. With the level 30 tree, I went with Fist of Justice just because it reduces the cooldown of Hodge, and if there's an add-on you can quick use that while the tank gets around to picking up the ad. Repentance with a cast time is not worth it in a raid environment, possibly more in an instance environment. That would be more beneficial. And Burden of a Guilt, Holy Paladin should not Judgment now since we don't get the haste buff from that. For the level 45 tree, I went with Sacred Shield just because it adds a little bit of mitigation on the off tank. So I would have Sacred Shield on my off tank, and then I would put Beacon of Light on my main tank. So both of them get a little bit of healing for me, as normal as Sacred Shield does. But if you find yourself using Word of Glory quite a bit on multiple people, I would recommend Eternal Flame, because that would just put a little bit of hot on each person versus just Sacred Shield on one person. For the level 60 tree, I went with Clemency because this is a very, very good talent. It gives you an extra Hand of Salvation, Hand of Freedom, Hand of Protection, and Hand of Sacrifice, which all of them can be very useful in a raid-like situation. Although on some fights, I did go with Hand of Purity just because there are some dots that really hurt the tank that they need the extra bit of mitigation, even if it's every 30 seconds. So they just hit me with Hand of Purity while one of their cooldowns is just about off cooldown, so it can really fill in the gap. For the level 75 tree, I went with Holy Avenger. The 2-minute cooldown, it's pretty much the exact same thing as Zealotry was back in Wrath and Cataclysm, but it's for Holy. So this is extreme burst healing. So when you use Holy Avenger, you first of all get this really cool graphic, and then when I just Holy Shock, I get 3 instant Holy Power. You can turn that into a Light of Dawn or a Word of Glory. Same thing with Holy Radiance. It really gives me really big amount of burst healing, which I feel is a lot better than Divine Purpose, which it has a 25% to cause the effect, which it would consume no holy power, and it would cast as if you had 3 holy power were going to be consumed. So its Divine Purpose is very RNG, and I prefer controlling my cooldowns, so I went with Holy Avenger for burst healing. I just feel like it's an extra cooldown for a raid. I mean, you can use it similar to a Druid Tranquility with all that burst going out, and it's very helpful. For the level 90 tree, I went with Light's Hammer. First and foremost because I raid in 25-man environment, so when a large amount of the group is stacked up, I can control where Light's Hammer is thrown, as you can see by the little area of effect green circle. It has a very cool graphic, and you can really control where it heals and when it heals. I did go with Holy Prism on a few fights. It is a very nice 20-second cooldown direct heal to your tank, or you can heal 5 melee that are around the boss that they are attacking. Both are very useful, but 25-man I would go with Light's Hammer, and for a 10-man I'd probably go with Holy Prism, depending on if the whole group is stacking. the whole group is stacking to 10 men, I would still probably go with Flight's Hammer, just because you can control where it goes and all that stuff. Next up on the list is glyphs. One glyph I would highly recommend for the majority of the fights in the current raid is Glyph Divine Plea. Now this will make your Divine Plea a 5-second cast time, but you will receive 20% of your total mana instantly, and your healing is not reduced. So the 5-second cast time does scale with haste. So with my current haste, which is at 17.46% unbuffed, it would be about 4.3 second cast. It's not that bad. So if you use it near the end of Divine Favor or Lust/Heroism, it would reduce that even more. Another glyph I roll with majority of the time is Divinity. It does increase the cooldown on your line hands by 2 minutes, but it also causes it to give you 10% of your maximum mana back. So with the changes of certain cooldowns Blizzard has made in the game, every time you wipe on a raid boss, your line hand, if it was on cooldown, it will be instantly off cooldown when you are ready to go again. So the 2 minutes doesn't really affect you because there isn't really any fights that last longer than 10 minutes. So I really recommend, if you're struggling a little bit on mana, which progression you would have some kind of mana problems even if it's right at the end of the fight, I really recommend Divinity. The other major glyph I'm using at the moment is Avenging Wrath. While Avenging Wrath is active, you are healed for 1% of your maximum health every 2 seconds. Now this will scale up with raid buffs such as Support, and when you use Avenging Wrath, you can see that it is about 4.6k healing. Now it will heal that about 8 times throughout the course, so it's going to be about 40k healed on just yourself over 20 seconds with raid buffs on. So with the launch of Myth of Pandaria, Blizzard has made minor glyphs just minimal. It's more just makes stuff look different, something fun and cool. So I have glyph of Wing of Vengeance, which I'm mentioning Wrath instead of 2 wings, so it'll give me 4. Since it's on cooldown, I can't really show you guys right now. And Contemplation, you'll see me just kneel, like in the beginning of the video. It's just a little RP, neat thing, nice for guild picks and such. And Righteous Retreat, this is really my favorite minor glyph. It uses my Hearthstone 50% faster during my bubble. So if I use bubble, you'll see instead of the 10-second cast Hearthstone has already, so when I use bubble, it will make it a 5-second cast. So it will last my whole duration of my bubble. Next thing I'm going to go over is the stat priority. The current stat priority is roughly Intellect, Spirit, Mastery, Haste, Crit Strike. Some websites say that Mastery is greater than or equal to Haste, but I personally like pure Mastery over a little bit of both. So faster casting is not that much of a big difference. Like in a raid, you won't notice it as much unless you have a crap ton of haste, which is also gives some diminishing returns since Mastery is so powerful right now. Looking at my older logs, Mastery, like throughout the beginning of Dragon Soul, it was minimal. It wasn't really a viable stat to reforge into, but now Mastery in Myth of Pandaria and the back end of Dragon Soul with the 5.0 patch has been really great. It's one of my top heals along with Light of Dawn. So why not buff one of your top heals? So I recommend going into all Mastery, even reforging Haste to Mastery, and especially Crit into Mastery. If Mastery's already in the piece, so if you have Mastery and Crit, reforge the Crit to Haste, obviously. Another substantial change in stats is the fixed mana pool. With Intellect not increasing the amount of mana you have, this really makes Spirit a powerful stat. So in progression right now, you want to stack spirit until you're comfortable with the mana return you are receiving from it. So right now I'm feeling good about 10, somewhere between 10 and 11k spirit. I do have a lot of spirit gems. You see here, some are still intellect because I was going in between 10 and 11k spirit because that's what I'm comfortable with right now. But I still do have a lot of spirit gems, as you can see in my gear right here.